Your brain treats resisting a morning donut exactly the same way it treats fleeing from an apex predator, meaning every ounce of willpower you force yourself to use is actually a biological alarm bell, slowly starving your prefrontal cortex of its executive power. We have been lied to about self-control. We have been told that discipline is a muscle to be flexed, a moral test of character, or a spiritual fuel tank that we simply need to keep full. But this entire perspective is a neurological illusion that is actively sabotaging your behavior every single day. When you try to force yourself to change through sheer willpower, you are not actually building a better life. You are triggering a highly inefficient, energy-draining cognitive override system that was never designed to run for more than a few minutes at a time. To understand why your best intentions crumble by mid-afternoon, we have to look at the silent chemical war raging inside your skull between your conscious mind and your evolutionary autopilot. Think of your brain as a highly sophisticated twin-engine biological machine. On one side, you have the ancient, deeply embedded basal ganglia. This is your autopilot, the seat of all automatic habits, routines, and effortless behaviors. It is incredibly energy efficient, requiring almost zero conscious effort to run. On the other side, sitting right behind your forehead, is the prefrontal cortex. This is your executive control center, the part of you that plans for the future, manages social behavior, and actively resists impulses. But there is a massive catch. While your basal ganglia runs on a tiny trickle of neural energy, your prefrontal cortex is a massive energy hog. It is the most modern, complex, and delicate piece of biological hardware you own, and it runs on a very limited, easily depleted fuel supply. Every single time you make a decision, suppress an emotion, focus on a difficult task, or resist a temptation, you are draining that prefrontal battery. This neural depletion is a psychological state known as ego depletion, and it completely alters the physical landscape of your brain. To prove this, let us look at a groundbreaking study from 1998 conducted by psychologist Roy Baumeister and his colleagues. They brought hungry participants into a laboratory that was filled with the rich, intoxicating aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. On the table in front of them sat two bowls. One bowl was stacked high with warm, delicious cookies and sweet chocolates. The other bowl contained nothing but raw, bitter radishes. The researchers divided the participants into two main groups. One group was told they could eat as many cookies as they wanted, while the other group was forced to sit there, smell the cookies, but eat only the radishes. Now, imagine the sheer psychological agony of that moment. You are starving, the smell of warm chocolate is wrapping around your senses, and you have to force yourself to chew on a cold, peppery radish while staring at a plate of cookies. The radish eaters had to use an immense amount of conscious self-control to resist temptation. Immediately after this task, the researchers took both groups and gave them a series of geometric puzzles to solve. What the participants did not know was that these puzzles were completely unsolvable. The researchers wanted to measure one simple thing: how long would they persist before giving up? The results were absolutely staggering. The group that ate the cookies, having used zero self-control, worked on the puzzles for an average of nearly 20 minutes before throwing in the towel. But the radish group, the people who had spent the last 15 minutes aggressively suppressing their desire for cookies, they gave up in just 8 minutes, and then it snaps. Think about that for a second. The simple act of resisting a cookie did not just affect their appetite, it literally drained their brain of the cognitive endurance required to solve an entirely unrelated mental task. They did not have less character, they did not suddenly become lazy. Their prefrontal cortex had simply run out of fuel. When you force yourself to stare at a blank document at work while resisting the urge to check your phone, you are the radish eater. When you politely nod at a difficult client while screaming internally, you are the radish eater. By the time you get home to your family at 6 o'clock, your prefrontal battery is completely dead. Your brain is in a state of high cognitive load, and when your partner asks you what you want for dinner, or you see a bag of chips on the counter, you lack the physical neural resources to make a conscious choice. How many times have you promised yourself that tomorrow would be different, only to repeat the exact same pattern by nightfall? You blame your lack of discipline. You tell yourself you are weak, but you are ignoring the biological reality of decision fatigue. Your brain is not a moral agent. It is a biological organism running programs to keep you alive, and its primary directive is always energy conservation. The truth is, white-knuckling your way to success is a neurological suicide mission. Let us blow this myth completely wide open. If self-control is a depleting resource, then how do those ultra-productive, incredibly healthy people we all envy seem to do it so effortlessly? Do they just have massive, supercharged prefrontal batteries that never run out of juice? Not even close. In 2012, researcher Wilhelm Hofmann led a massive study that used experience sampling to track the daily desires and self-control efforts of hundreds of people in real time. They gave participants beepers that went off at random intervals throughout the day, asking them if they were currently experiencing a desire, how strong that desire was, and whether they were using willpower to resist it. What they discovered flipped the entire field of behavioral psychology completely on its head. The people who scored highest on measures of self-control and had the most successful lives were not actually using their willpower more than everyone else. In fact, they were using it significantly less. They reported fewer desires, fewer intense internal conflicts, and far lower levels of daily temptation. They were not master suppressors of urges. They were master architects of their environment. Let that sink in. The people who look like they have the most discipline actually use the least. They are not standing in front of the cookie jar, commanding their hand to stay by their side. They simply did not buy the cookies in the first place. They are not forcing themselves to study in a loud room. They are working in a quiet library. When you rely on willpower, you are attempting to machete your way through dense brush right next to a clear, paved road. A habit loop is like a deep groove worn into a dirt path. Every time you perform an automatic behavior, that groove gets deeper. The basal ganglia loves this path because it requires almost zero electrical activity to walk down. Willpower is the desperate attempt to step out of that deep groove and forge a brand new path through sheer effort. It works for a few steps, but the moment you get tired or stressed or hungry, your foot slides right back into the deepest groove on the path. When you look at a brain scan of someone performing a behavior through sheer self-control versus someone performing a behavior out of habit, the difference is night and day. The self-control brain is lit up like a Christmas tree, consuming massive amounts of oxygen and glucose in the prefrontal cortex. The habit brain is quiet, dark, and highly efficient. The neural activity has shifted backward, deep into the basal ganglia. If you want to create lasting change, you have to stop fighting your biology and start working with it. You must stop trying to build a stronger willpower muscle and start building a smarter habit ecosystem. Here is exactly how we do that, using 3 highly specific, scientifically proven strategies to bypass the prefrontal cortex entirely and hardwire change directly into your basal ganglia. First, we must ruthlessly design for low friction. Your brain is a cognitive miser. It calculates the physical and mental energy required for any action before you even consciously think about doing it. If you want to make a behavior happen, you must reduce the steps required to initiate it to as close to zero as possible. If you want to go to the gym in the morning, do not wake up and decide which clothes to wear, where your shoes are, and what workout you are going to do. Every one of those decisions drains your prefrontal battery before you even step out the door. Instead, lay your clothes out right next to your bed. Place your shoes on top of them and have your workout plan written down the night before. You want to make the path of least resistance the exact path you actually want to take. Conversely, if you want to stop a bad habit, you must increase the friction. If you want to stop checking your phone while working, do not just leave it on your desk face down. Put it in another room, inside a drawer, turned completely off. The simple act of having to stand up and walk to another room introduces enough friction to interrupt the automatic habit loop in your basal ganglia, giving your prefrontal cortex a split second to intervene without draining its energy. Second, we must utilize implementation intentions. Developed by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer, these are highly specific, pre-programmed if-then plans that bypass the need for conscious decision-making. Most people set vague goals like, I am going to eat healthier this week. This requires constant, active decision fatigue. Every meal becomes a moral battle. Instead, you create a neurological trigger. If it is noon on Tuesday, then I will eat the salad I prepared on Monday. Or, if I feel the urge to check social media while writing, then I will take 3 deep breaths and write one more sentence. By deciding the exact action you will take before the situation occurs, you remove the prefrontal cortex from the equation entirely. The trigger becomes the cue, and the behavior becomes the automatic response, mimicking the exact structure of a natural habit loop. Third, we must align our behavior with the true mechanism of dopamine. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure. It is the molecule of anticipation. It fires in your brain when you expect a reward, not when you actually receive it. It is the biological engine that drives search and motivation. To build a new habit, you must attach the anticipation of a reward to the behavior itself, rather than relying on the distant, abstract reward of getting healthy or becoming rich months down the line. This is a technique called temptation bundling. You pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do. If you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite, highly engaging podcast while you are cleaning the house, your brain begins to associate the chore with the highly dopaminergic anticipation of the story. You are hijacking the reward system to pull you forward, rather than using willpower to push yourself from behind. Your brain will always choose the path of least resistance, not because it is lazy, but because it wants to keep you alive. Take a moment to look back at your life through this lens. Think of all the times you beat yourself up for failing a diet, or quitting a project, or sleeping in when you promised you would wake up early. You walked around carrying this heavy, exhausting burden of shame, believing that you were fundamentally flawed, lazy, or lacking the discipline that others possessed. But that was never the truth. The truth is, you were simply a human being with a normal, beautifully functioning biological brain that was placed in an environment designed to drain it. You were trying to run a marathon using a muscle that was only built for a short sprint. The shame you felt was not a reflection of your character. It was simply the inevitable biological consequence of a system running out of fuel. You do not need more willpower. You never did. What you need is self-compassion grounded in real, practical neuroscience. You need to stop fighting the biological currents of your mind and start navigating them with intelligence. When you design your environment to protect your cognitive energy, when you automate your decisions, and when you work with your brain's natural reward systems, the behaviors you once struggled to force eventually become as effortless as breathing. The next time you find yourself struggling to resist a temptation or complete a difficult task, do not flex your mental muscles. Step back. Look at the system. Identify where the friction is. Look at how your energy is being drained and redesign the environment. You are the architect of your mind, not its prisoner. Once you understand how the engine works, you can finally stop pushing the car and start driving it. If you are ready to stop fighting your own biology and finally master the hidden forces that drive your decisions, make sure to join us here at Habit Decoded. We are going to continue peeling back the layers of your brain's secret programs, revealing exactly why you think, feel, and behave the way you do. But our journey into the hidden mechanics of your mind is only just beginning. Next, we are going to dive deep into a silent, invisible chemical cascade that dictates exactly how much pain you can tolerate before you break, and how a simple shift in your sensory perception can instantly unlock reserves of physical and mental endurance you never knew you had. Until then, design your world, protect your energy, and let your brain do what it was always designed to do.